And if you're highly acidic and your lymph isn't moving and you're holding all these acids and then you're pumping a lot of testosterone, it can exacerbate the problem for sure. So get that out first, then take a male reproductive formula to bring power and strength to those cells, and you'll have it. So I would work that way first and get my lymph system. And it's always going to come back to that lymph system. Remember I told you how simple this is, so maybe we shouldn't tell everybody, or maybe we should. Here's another question, and thanks a lot, my friend. I appreciate all your questions. It says, can panic attacks kill you when they're extreme? Well, I think that you'll pass out, but I think that you'll start breathing, you know. I'll say this, if you look around your life and make sure you're not living in a house or living around an area where you're getting a lot of neural toxins, because if you're on raw and you're not pulling out of some of these things, you're either not digging deep enough into the body, your lymph is very backed up and you need to get these herbs to help you, or you're constantly subjecting yourself to neurotoxins. And neurotoxins, I don't know, they're everything from perfumes to bathroom deodorizers to gasoline to pesticides and herbicides. I mean, there's a lot of neurotoxins. You know, new car smells and stuff, formaldehyde, some of them are very neurotoxic. And so you might have a lot of neurotoxins. So it just takes a while to clean those out. And you might have some ups and downs as these neurotoxins come out of you. But check and kind of look around, make sure your life is more pure, because I don't want you to keep hurting yourself if you get around these neurotoxins here. Someone also asked me about fermented foods and what I thought about it. I suppose if it was a margarita or a daiquiri, you know, Jensen was into fermented foods. And I'm not. I don't care. But at the same time, I mean, you're on the downside of life. You're in the decaying side of life. And if you think that's healthy, I think you got to rethink your thinking. There's nothing healthy to me about fermented foods. I mean, we use mushrooms. I really don't even use mushrooms in the immune system, because your immune system is your main lymphatic system. If you're saying, well, a mushroom is known to increase your T cell, which is your thymus gland cells, or your B cells out of your bone marrow, okay, but I've never seen any lab work or research that shows that mushrooms increase B and T cell production or macrophage, although there was a company selling a formula, I won't mention any names, that touted that it doubled your T's and B's and tripled your macrophages. The only catch is it was like $120 and the bottle lasted 2 weeks and you're going to be on the rest of your life. You know, these kind of people are not God people. Sorry, but that's not how you do things. If you've got to make everybody healthy, and if you want to make your bone marrow healthy, or your thymus gland healthy, or your spleen, or your liver, anything, what are these tissues made of? A bunch of cells. And what else has to be available to those cells for them to be healthy? A kitchen, a blood supply, and to be able to eliminate their waste. These are the two things that are key for infants. These are the two things that is key for every cell, and it's also key for you. You get severe constipation, doesn't make you feel too good. So a bit of a problem there. So I'm not really into them too much. I mean, you can if you want, but I'd make sure my diet is full of fruits and berries and melons. Salad second, and then, some unsundry items. Some gentleman asked me about my 20%. 20% would be steamed vegetables, cooked vegetables, vegetable soups, maybe baked sweet potatoes, maybe organic corn chips that you can use with guacamole or make your raw salsa. Kind of stuff like that. I mean, you can, if you get a little deeper, you can do some whole grain brown rice, still a starch, but you can do it. These foods aren't detoxifying foods, but that's okay when you're kind of maintaining. Those that have to have some dead animals once in a while, okay. Piece of fish or chicken, I guess, on a big salad. But you remember your proper food combinations. You never mix protein and starches together. That's a big no-no. You'll feel that when you do that, by the way. The healthier you get when you combine your foods wrong, nobody will have to tell you a thing. You'll get bloated. You feel like your foods are just sitting there and a lot of gas. And that's a problem with fermented foods. I had a guy in here yesterday that had, of course, he had cancer through him. And some nutritionist put him on this soup, a bowl of soup every hour, or a cup of soup every hour for 7 days. But this soup was broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, onions. These are cruciferouses. These are all your sulfur veggies. Sulfur is nothing healthy about sulfur, guys. Sulfur is an acid gas. And man, did he have a lot of gas. Many think he was having a heart attack. And had a lot of problems. And I had to laugh, but these are the kind of things you don't do. They rave cruciferouses over cancer. Why? What about a cruciferous is good for cancer? I haven't seen anything. You've got a lymph system that isn't moving and you're holding acids in these tissues, and if you don't remedy that problem, I don't care what you take. Doesn't matter to me. You're not going to be successful. You might hold things off, but you're not going to be too successful there. Oh yeah, I wanted to get into this hair thing. I've been asked several times about the balding, even in women. I suppose if you're born without any hair, you could look to your pituitary gland, look at the size of your body, whether you're short or tall, your growth patterns. You could probably look at the brain at some of that. But in reality, the thing that removes hair the most is your lymph system. And really, that's what you really want to look after, is cleaning that lymph system. I use two things for balding. And by the way, there's a gentleman that wanted to talk to someone. Call Kathy if you're wondering about balding. We had a gentleman with cancer all through him. He was bald, and now he's got hair all over the place. And it just had been balding for years. And then that wasn't a chemo removal. Interesting how chemo removes hair, isn't it? Well, chemo's acid. And acids do break down cells. Remember the guy told you, I think yesterday on a video, that they wanted to remove all his teeth before chemo did. I mean, come on. I mean, this is going down the wrong road to Wellville, because there is no Wellville at the end of that road. There's death, decay, pain, suffering. There's all kinds of nasty stuff. For what reason? You're talking about cells. And you want to get cells healthy. You don't get cells healthy, that's where virals come in. That's where your autoimmune problems come in. If there ever was such a word, simply means that your body is getting rid of the weak. And we've talked about that in previous videos here. But always work on your lymph system to put on hair. I do use upper circulation. This is a formula I have that creates new vascular pathways, and it'll really push blood all up in the head area. At the same time, remember that it's the lymph system that breaks those pathways down. So going after lymph and increasing blood flow to the head, you'll grow hair. I've never seen anyone not be able to do that. Some quicker than others, of course, but still, I've never seen anyone not be able to do that. Make sure your glands are healthy. When you're looking at the endocrine glands and you're wondering about the pituitary, the iridology is one of the best ways to determine that problem. However, if you have thyroid and parathyroid weakness, where you're having the colder body, the slower heart rate, and you're not utilizing calcium properly, you see the veins and the hemorrhoids and the cramping and maybe the bruising easy, that's your parathyroid, and you see ovarian problems or male problems. You start to see too many endocrine gland problems, you can really suspect the pituitary, and this would be especially true if you didn't have any tonsils. Because you're then really compromising lymph drainage, and then you're going to have some problems there. And that ties me into another question here about the thyroid gland, and this person's on Armour. Dr. Jensen and his wife thought Armour would be good to increase thyroid function. He did not realize that if you take a hormone, a steroid, a neurotransmitter, or a digestive enzyme, whatever your endocrine, exocrine glands make, if you take those substances, I'm telling you, your glands quit making them. We know that in every health modality there is, from veterinarians to medical doctors, but we still use it in those fields because they don't understand the anti-inflammatory properties of fruits, berries, and melons, and greens.